totoong poprotekta? Sino ang tunay na susuporta? At sino ang mag-aalaga? Ngayon, marami nang walang kasiguraduhan. Ngunit may sagot dyan na mapagkakatiwalaan. Kasino ang totoong poprotekta? Kasino ang tunay na susuporta? Kasino ang mag-aalaga? Kasino ang mag-aalaga laban sa germs and viruses? Kasino ethyl alcohol? Kasino ang mag-aalaga? Sino ang totoong poprotekta? Sino ang tunay na susuporta? At sino ang mag-aalaga? Ngayon, marami nang walang kasiguraduhan. Ngunit may sagot dyan na mapagkakatiwalaan. Kasino ang totoong poprotekta? Kasino ang tunay na susuporta? Kasino ang mag-aalaga? Kasino ang mag-aalaga laban sa germs and viruses? Kasino ethyl alcohol? Kasino ang mag-aalaga?
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure and honor to be invited in this webinar. My name is Aileen Antolin. I am Trustee for Program Development of Philippine Foundation for Breast Care, or better known as Kasuso. So I'm here to talk about breast cancer. Alam naman natin na every October, we commemorate Global Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So this is a very good initiative for Vista Mall to invite their partners to learn more about breast cancer and most especially breast health. So, to start with, I'd like to share with you my screen. Yan. In the first slide, makikita niyo yung picture ng dalawang babae, and they have to make two choices. To choose which comes first. Do we choose beauty or do we choose health? Actually, it shouldn't be a no-brainer. Kasi dapat pagpipili ka ng health, kasabay naman nito, ang end result nito would be beauty. And when we choose to be beautiful, hindi malalayo that we will have to make choices for good health. So pagkagising natin sa umaga, ano bang ating ginagawa? So we wash our faces, toothbrush, and then sometimes we go straight to shower. In order to do these hygiene practices, meron tayong mga ginagamit na mga tools. And we spend money in order to buy these tools to keep ourselves beautiful and healthy. The thing is, most women would only look at themselves in front of the mirror hanggang sa kanilang leeg lang. Ang tinitingnan lang ay ang ating mukha. We spend so much time looking at the skin of our face. If we have pimples, if we have discoloration, if we have a new wrinkle to look out for. So lahat ng ito, binibigyan natin ng atensyon, and then we spend money para ma-avoid natin yung pagkulubot ng ating balat, pag-darken ng ating skin, and yung acne breakouts. But we do not venture to look beyond our faces, to check our breasts, and to see if they are healthy. Sige nga, tanungin ko nga kayo, sino sa inyo ang humaharap sa salamin para tingnan ang sarili niyong susi? Have you ever looked at your breasts lately? Have you checked your breasts lately? The truth of the matter is, hindi natin nabibigyan ng sapat na atensyon ang ating mga suso. Number one, siguro dahil sa stigma. Inisip natin na nakakahiyang pag-usapan ang tungkol sa suso. Kaya nga po kami sa Kasuso Foundation, hindi kami nahihiyang sabihin ang salitang suso. See, there's no other word to describe or to name this body part. Kung hindi tayo nahihiyang sabihin ang mga parte ng katawan natin kagaya ng ilong, mata, kamay, paa, bakit natin lalagyan ng mali siya ang pangalan ng bahagi ng katawan natin kagaya ng suso? Eh, ito naman talagang pangalan ng suso, and not being able to name this body part properly without malice can contribute to our hesitation or inability to properly care for our breasts. Bakit ba mahalaga ang ating suso? Mahalaga ang ating suso because it does not only give us our female form. Alam natin na the breasts give life. It nourishes and nurtures life. Ito yung unang-unang hinahanap ng ating mga babies. Sino ba sa inyo ang married and may anak na? Or may anak na? Sino sa inyo ang nagbe-breastfeed? You realize how important your breasts are. But if you take care of your breasts well early on, your children will benefit most from it. Hindi lamang sa nutrition na makukuha when we breastfeed them, but also when we learn to take care of our breasts, we save our children time to be around them, to nurture them, and to guide them. Bakit po? According to statistics, 1 in 13 Filipina will have breast cancer in their lifetime. Sa buong Southeast Asia, ang Pilipinas ang may pinakamaraming kaso ng namamatay sa breast cancer. Breast cancer is the number 1 cancer that kills the Filipina in the Philippines. Kaya kailangan natin ng sapat na atensyon at kaalaman para pangalagaan ang ating suso. There, I hope I have convinced you enough to take care of your breasts. So bago natin pag-usapan ang issue tungkol sa breast cancer, let's get to know your breasts first. So, are you familiar with your normal breast anatomy? Inside your breasts are these parts. Take note po, sa anatomy na ipinapakita ko sa inyo, wala pong muscle gaano sa loob ng ating suso. Ang pinakamalaking bahagi ng ating suso ay binubuo ng fats. Fats make up the bulk and the shape of our breasts. This is the reason why kapag merong breast cancer, hindi nakakaramdam ng pain ang isang babae. Kung kaya, karamihan ng mga may breast cancer ay nagsasabi na wala naman po akong nararamdamang kirot sa aking suso noong umpisa. Nakakaramdam lamang po ng pain sa breast kapag lumaki na ang suso at pumutok na ito kung kaya nagkaroon na ng skin break at nahagip na yung nerve endings sa skin level ng ating breasts. So what are inside your breast? Inside your breast, you'll find your chest wall o yung tinatawag na tadyang. The chest wall protects our heart, our lungs. In between the rib cage are small amounts of muscle that covers the rib cage. Nasa tadyang ng ang muscles. The next is the lobules. Ito ay ang imbakan ng ating milk. This is where our milk is produced. Inside your breasts are found milk ducts o yung tinatawag na daluyan ng gatas. And then, you will find your areola. Ito yung skin na pumapalibot sa ating nipple or utong. Anong silbi ng ating areola? Hindi po siya pang display lang. Ang areola ay punong-puno ng nerve endings. Kapag ikaw ay lactating mother, if you remember when you first gave birth, your breastfeeding coach will teach you to stimulate your areola first so that your milk production will initiate. Your areola is stimulated. When stimulated, will send a signal to your brain, and your brain will tell your breasts to produce milk. The brain will release the hormone called prolactin. And prolactin hormone is responsible for the production of milk. So, kapag properly stimulated ang areola, you'll have better milk production. Then, your baby can latch on your nipple to start breastfeeding. So, bakit importante malaman itong mga parts ng ating breasts? Kasi po, ang breast cancer ay pwedeng tumubo sa parte ng lobules, which is called invasive lobular carcinoma, ducts, which is also called invasive ductal carcinoma. So, marami pong klase ng cancer. At karamihan po ay dito tumutubo sa loob ng breast, but not entirely in the breasts lang. So, later I'll share to you where else breast cancer can grow. Okay. So, it's normal for women to have lumps, especially when our menstrual period starts. We find that before, during, and immediately after our period, our breasts tend to become lumpy. So, madalas, in your early 20s, meron tayong na-feel na lump sa ating breasts. Remember that hindi po lahat ng bukol ay cancer. Iba dyan, pwedeng cyst. So, ano po ang iba-ibang lumps na nakikita sa ating breast? Sometimes, our lumps may contain liquid. Kaya po siya tinatawag na cystic. So, ito po, hindi po yan pinag-aalala, inoobserbahan lang siya at minomonitor in case na merong pagbabago na mangyayari. The next thing that we should watch out for sa lump is if it is solid. When the lump is solid, you need to have it biopsied by a doctor to check if your lump is malignant or benign. Ano ibig sabihin nito? Kapag sinabing benign, ibig sabihin, it's a lump that's not cancerous and does not have the capability to spread to other parts of the body. Pero, kapag sinabing malignant, ibig sabihin, that has the capability to spread to other parts of the body. That's when we will need further treatment. So, breast lumps could be fibroadenoma, which could be fatty tissues that have hardened. Ibig sabihin, nagkaroon ng abnormal na fatty tissue development sa loob ng iyong breasts, and they are growing abnormally at lumalaki at tumitigas siya. But they're not necessarily cancerous. Also, there's what you call cystic breast changes. So this is what happens during our menstrual period, and they normally will go away. Next. So how does cancer form in the breast? Cancer starts when the DNA in the cell is damaged. So alam po natin that the smallest structure in our body is the cell. Smallest unit of the body is the cell. The smallest unit inside our cell is the DNA. Ito yung nagdidikta ng ating buong pagkatao, how our body will function, what sex we're going to be birthed as, paano magpa-function yung mga organs natin, how it dictates the body structure that we will have. So, ito yung parang hard drive ng ating katawan. So, damage may be inherited, but often damage is acquired. So, bakit po nagda-damage ang DNA? So, syempre, our body goes through the normal activities of living. Araw-araw, as we go on with our lives, we experience stress, illness. Sometimes we are exposed to environments that are unhealthy, and then we sometimes eat unhealthy food, we ingest alcohol, cigarettes. So these are things that can further damage our DNA. So when cells are damaged, the DNA die on their own or repair themselves. So minsan ang DNA hindi na siya nagre-repair. Merong tinatawag na regulatory cells inside the DNA. Ito yung parang traffic light sa loob ng ating DNA. It tells our DNA when to stop reproducing or repairing. Kapag nasira ang regulatory mechanism ng ating DNA, ang ating DNA ay yung damaged DNA will then reproduce themselves. So imagine nyo po, damaged yung DNA, magre-reproduce siya walang control. And then, magkakaroon siya ng sariling feeding system. It will feed on the cells around them so that it can grow bigger and spread wider all over our bodies. So, when our DNA is damaged, the cells we produce will have the same damaged DNA. So, uncontrollable growth forms a tumor. So, magkukumpul-kumpul yung damaged DNA, they will form a tumor and subsequently invade surrounding tissues and spread to other parts of the body. That's when we call it malignant. So, these damaged cells, which are now cancer cells, will continue to divide. Alam natin that DNA cells multiply, divide, they divide, and then they multiply, divide, and then multiply. So, hindi na siya makontrol, dadami na siya, lalaki siya ng lalaki, hanggang sa kakalat na siya. Okay. So, where does the cancer cell spread to? So, sa breast cancer, meron tayong tinatawag na BBL pathways of metastasis. Okay? Your breast cancer cells can spread in the brain, in the bones, in the liver, in the lungs. Bakit sinasabi siyang metastatic breast cancer? Ibig sabihin, the same breast cancer cells that were found in the breasts have spread to the bones, to the brain, to the liver, to the lungs. Pero, take note, when you have breast cancer, it does not mean na hindi ka natutubuan ng iba pang cancer. Maaari din kasi na may breast cancer ka na, pero tinubuan ka pa ng panibagong klase ng cancer sa brain, sa bone, sa liver, sa lungs. So, ibig sabihin, kailangang ma-check ng doktor kung yung cancer cells na nasa loob ng breast cancer mo is the same cells that are found in the areas that have metastasized. So, saka lang masasabi na ito ay metastatic breast cancer. Kapag hindi pareho ng breast cancer cells, it could be a different kind of cancer. Kawawa naman siya, no? Lahat na ng cancer, nakuha niya na.
Sino ang totoong poprotekta? Sino ang tunay na susuporta? At sino ang mag-aalaga? Ngayon, marami nang walang kasiguraduhan. Ngunit may sagot dyan na mapagkakatiwalaan. Kasino ang totoong poprotekta? Kasino ang tunay na susuporta? Kasino ang mag-aalaga? Kasino ang mag-aalaga laban sa germs and viruses? Kasino ethyl alcohol? Kasino ang mag-aalaga? Sino ang totoong poprotekta? Sino ang tunay na susuporta? At sino ang mag-aalaga? Ngayon, marami nang walang kasiguraduhan. Ngunit may sagot dyan na mapagkakatiwalaan. Kasino ang totoong poprotekta? Kasino ang tunay na susuporta? Kasino ang mag-aalaga? Kasino ang mag-aalaga laban sa germs and viruses? Kasino ethyl alcohol? Kasino ang mag-aalaga?
Okay, so how do we measure our risks for having breast cancer? Sabi ko nga kanina, statistics show that 1 in 13 women will have breast cancer in their lifetime. So, ibig sabihin, kung meron tayong 100 sa loob ng Zoom room na ito, most likely, 1 in 13, at least, ilan? 13 women, at the very least, some 10 to 13 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in their lifetime. Ba't naman ganun karami? Number one, in Kasuso Foundation, we do not use the word breast cancer prevention because breast cancer cannot be prevented. We cannot prevent breast cancer. Bakit? Kasi babae ka. Gender is a big risk factor for developing breast cancer. Why? The same hormone that give us our female characteristics, the same hormones that dictates our monthly hormonal cycle, is the same hormone that causes breast cancer. And that hormone is estrogen. The next risk factor is age. As we age, as we grow older, our risk for breast cancer increases. Bakit? Kasi po, meron tayo, siyempre po, buwan-buwan. Before the age of menopause, buwan-buwan meron tayong regla. Unless, of course, nabuntis tayo. Meron tayong buwan-buwan na regla. Meaning, our estrogen cycle is still ongoing. Kapag ka nagpo-pause, nagkakaroon ng menopause, ibig sabihin, huminto ang regla, our body then will use the excess fat in the body to produce additional estrogen that will further predispose us to breast cancer. So, hindi ka pa rin ligtas. Kaya, isa sa mga risk factor is aging. Pero we're realizing that as early as 2010, bumabata ang mga nagda-diagnose with breast cancer. It's no longer just the perimenopausal women and menopausal women who are being diagnosed with breast cancer. Another risk factor is previous breast cancer. Ibig sabihin, kapag ikaw ay na-diagnose na with breast cancer, halimbawa on your left breast, it's 2 to 4 times likely that you will develop breast cancer on the other breast. So you are a likely candidate for breast cancer pa rin. Then, family history. If you have a mother, tita, kapatid na babae, cousin na nagkaroon ng breast cancer, you have 5 to 10% chances of having breast cancer because of your family history. Next factor is early menstruation, menarche, or late menopause. Again, this has something to do with our estrogen. So, kung before 12 years old, nagkaroon ka na ng regla, ibig sabihin maaga ang exposure mo sa estrogen hormone. And also, if 50 and above ka na, meron ka pa rin regla. Ibig sabihin, mataas pa rin ang iyong estrogen level sa katawan. You have increased risk for breast cancer. Next, the next risk factor is never conceive. Bakit? Di ba po, buwan-buwan nagre-regla tayo. Ibig sabihin, kapag nagre-regla tayo, we have monthly exposure to estrogen. Kapag nagbuntis ka, hindi ka nagre-regla. So you have 9 months of break from estrogen kasi hindi ka nagre-regla. So therefore, if you have not conceived, you never had a break from estrogen surge in your body, which puts you at risk for breast cancer. So there, these are the risk factors for breast cancer: gender, age, previous history of breast cancer, family history of breast cancer, early menstruation and late menopause, and history of never having conceived o hindi nagbuntis ng full term. So next, risk factor. These are factors that can be changed. Yung kaninang binanggit ko, hindi mo yun mababago because it's nature. You cannot change the fact that you're a woman. You cannot change the fact that we are aging. You cannot change the fact that we never conceived. Unless, of course, you're still in the age of reproduction, pwede ka pang magbuntis. Pero yun, there are factors that cannot be changed and there are factors that can be changed. So, what are the risk factors that can be changed? Number one, children. So, if you want to decrease your risk for breast cancer, have children. The more children, the more chances of winning. Next, your use of contraceptive pills. Ano ba ang laman ng contraceptive pills natin? Di ba po, estrogen? The reason why we're taking contraceptive pills is because we want to keep having our menstruation. Kasi ayaw natin magbuntis. Meron ka ng naturally occurring estrogen in your body. Dinadagdagan mo pa ng synthetic estrogen. So you are increasing your risk for breast cancer. Okay, but we're not saying do not take oral contraceptive pills. We're not demonizing contraceptive pills. What we're saying is, if you have to take oral contraceptive pills, make sure that you are supervised by a doctor. Hindi po ito parang medical na kapag masakit ang ulo, iinom po kayo at kapag hindi naman sakit, ihihinto nyo na. Because we're finding that meron pong mga misis na kapag si mister na OFW ay aalis, halimbawa, wala si mister, iinom siya ng, wala si mister, hindi siya iinom ng contraceptive pills. Tapos, pag uuwi si mister, bigla siyang iinom ng contraceptive pills para hindi siya magbuntis. Hindi po pwede ng ganon kasi po masisira yung sistema po ninyo. Oral contraceptive pills are meant to be taken regularly at at a regular interval. Hindi po siya basta-basta sinisimulan, hindi rin po siya basta-basta hinihinto. Next is breastfeeding. Bakit po nakakabawas ng risk ang breastfeeding? Remember po, when you are breastfeeding, when your brain is producing prolactin to produce milk, increased prolactin in the body decreases estrogen. Kasi nga po, di ba po, pag bagong panganak ang isang babae, when we breastfeed our babies, we have temporary contraception. Natural contraception siya. For how many months hindi tayo nagre-regla? Because the increase in prolactin, which increases milk production, decreases estrogen levels in our body. Kaya wala tayong regla. So breastfeeding decreases our risk for breast cancer. Next, this factor is hormone therapy after menopause. Ito po yung sinasabi ko na because we're no longer menstruating, sometimes our bones get brittle, we became prone to fractures, kaya kinakailangan ng doktor na resetahan tayo ng hormone therapy, which is usually still estrogen. Kaya lang po, it increases our risk for breast cancer. Another factor is alcohol. Bakit? Alcohol po is when ingested in a body, is converted into sugar. So added sugar in the body is a cancer feeder. Remember po that cancer cells feed on sugary environment. So the more sugar in the body, the more cancer feeders, the higher the risk for breast cancer. Smoking. Alam naman po natin na ang nicotine sa sigarilyo ay hindi lang nakaka-cause ng breast cancer. Marami pa po itong sakit na pwedeng ma-cause hindi ng cancer. Pwede kang magkasakit sa puso, sa atay, dahil sa nicotine. And the thing to watch out for is, oo nga, hindi ka naninigarilyo. If your husband or somebody in your house smokes cigarettes, so merong emission ng nicotine sa loob ng inyong tahanan. And nicotine takes a long time to be removed from the environment. Nicotine stays in your hair, it can be passed in your breast milk, and can stay in the skin for hours. So, pwede po siyang malanghap ng mga kasambahay natin. So, we are careful about second and third hand smoke. Kaya nga po, ini-impose na po yung no smoking in public places. Kasi marami na pong sakit ang nagpo-cause ng nicotine. Next is obesity. Bakit po nag-increase ng risk factor ang obesity? Kasi nga po, sabi ko kanina, when we have excess fat in our body produces estrogen from fat deposits in our body. So, magpo-produce ka ng extra estrogen dahil sa fatty environment inside our bodies. So, kapag partner po nito yung lack of exercise. Siyempre po, when we are obese, we become obese because we lack exercise. Remember po that when we are exercising properly, we are producing endorphins, and the release of endorphins decreases estrogen levels in our body. So, magka-partner po ito. So, these are the risk factors that can be changed. Having children, properly supervised oral contraceptive pills intake, breastfeeding, hormone therapy after menopause, alcohol, smoking, obesity, and lack of exercise. These are things to remember. Alalaman kung ako ay may breast cancer. What are the signs and symptoms of breast cancer? Number one, of course, is a lump Siyempre, kapag may bukol, again, uulitin ko po, hindi ko may bukol, cancer na agad yan. But, the most common presenting symptom of breast cancer is of course bukol. Next is nipple discharge. Kung hindi ka nagbe-breastfeed, dapat walang discharge sa nipple mo. So whether yan ay kulay pula, kulay puti, kulay brown, or colorless, hindi pa rin normal na magkaroon ng discharge sa nipple. And then nipple changes. Ano yung sinasabi nipple changes? Ito po yung cracked nipple, redness, soreness, pamamaga, and irritation in the nipples. That needs to be investigated further. Ibig sabihin, kapag meron ka po nitong symptom na to, you should have it checked by a doctor. Next, skin dimpling. Ano po ba yung skin dimpling? Dimple. Dapat po, walang dimple sa breasts. Normally, hindi mo makikita yung dimpling sa breast kapag hindi mo ginagawa yung mga proper hand positioning when doing breast self-exam. So later on, I'm going to teach you how to do proper hand positioning when inspecting or examining your breast and doing breast self-exam. Next is skin changes. Ano bang skin changes ang dapat natin babantayan? So dapat po, kasi nga po tago ang ating breasts. So it's normal that our breasts are light, ang skin sa ating breasts is lighter than the skin that is exposed sa labas ng ating katawan. So dapat po, yung texture niyan pantay, smooth, hindi po parang balat ng kahel. Yung pode orange, ibig po sabihin niyan, parang balat ng kahel, pero hindi po kulay kahel ha. Parang balat ng orange, pero hindi kulay orange. Imagine niyo po yung skin ng orange. Ganun po yung balat na dapat bantayan. Next is axillary lymph nodes or mga kulani sa kilikili, sa bandang leeg. Ito po yung mga kailangang bantayan natin. Okay, in the next slide, I'm going to show you what breast cancer looks like. What breast changes that foretells breast cancer looks like. Sa picture 1A, makikita niyo po na ito po yung nipple changes na sinasabi ko. Yung isang nipple ay inverted, yung kabila, hindi. Kung hindi ka naman dati pa inverted nipples, then you should have your breast checked. Kung makikita niyo po sa 1A, ang isang breast ay maga. Yung balat po, tingnan niyo po, blotchy, parang patsi-patsi yung balat. Hindi po pantay yung kulay, hindi pantay yung texture. Kita pa lang, hindi kailangan salatin. Makikita niyo na po na may kakaiba sa breasts. Namamaga po yung left breast. Left from my orientation po. Sa 1B po, kita mo na may bukol yung breasts. Namamaga, namumula, at yung nipple area nag-uumpisa ng mabulo. So 1C po, ano pong napapansin niyo? Normal, di ba? Parang walang problema yung breast. Wala kang makikitang kakaiba sa breast na to. Pero sa 1B, this is the same set of breast. Isa lang pong katawan nito. May dimpling po yung right breast. Paano po nangyari ito? Kasi po yung 1C, ang kanyang kamay ay nasa gilid lang ng kanyang katawan. Pero nung iniangat niya yung kanyang dalawang braso, lumabas po yung skin dimpling. That's something to be investigated somewhere. Yan. So ngayon, ano po ang kailangan namin gawin para po mapangalagaan namin ang aming mga suso? Tuturuan ko po kayo ng tamang breast self-examination. Sabi nga po namin, early detection saves lives. Ibig po sabihin, the earlier detected yung breast cancer, the greater chances of survival. Plus, mas madali pong gamutin yung early stages kesa sa late stages. So, ang breast cancer po kasi, ang kaisa-isang cancer na yung may katawan mismo ang unang makakaramdam ng kakaiba sa kanya. And the only way we can track changes in our breast is if we monthly do breast self-exam. So, ano po ba yung breast self-exam? Mag-uumpisa po tayo sa visual inspection of our breast. Sabi ko nga kanina, kapag umaharap po tayo sa salamin, dapat nagpa-familiarize tayo sa look ng ating breast. Dapat alam natin kung anong itsura ng ating breast. Hindi po pare-pareho ang mga suso natin. Hindi pare-pareho ang suso ni Maria at ni Ana. So, hindi po natin dapat pinagkukumpara ito. So, what looks normal to you may not be normal for others. Which is why it's important to take note and be familiar with your own breasts. So, what do we do? In front of the mirror, of course, nakahubad, tanggal po yung damit, tanggal din po yung bra, haharap tayo sa salamin. Pero hindi po kayo maghuhubad ngayon. Wala pong maghuhubad dito sa Zoom. Stand in front of a mirror and look closely at your breasts in the following position. May mga position po. So, sa harap ng salamin, nakahubad, tingnan nyo po ang suso nyo sa harap ng nakaharap. Tingnan nyo po kung yung mga nabanggit ko na signs and symptoms ay present sa inyong breast. Tingnan nyo rin po, turn to your left and check if you have the signs and symptoms on this area. And then turn to your right to check if you have the signs and symptoms in this area. So, importante po that we check our breast wholly, completely. Hindi po yung harap lang, at hindi po yung gilid. Check nyo po if yung shape ay okay naman. Normal po na hindi pareho ang size ng dalawang breast. No two breasts in the same body are the same. Alam natin magkakaiba yan. Pero, halata po ang suso na merong problema. Kasi po, sobra pong laki yung breast na may sakit. At may kasama po yung pamumula at pamamaga at breast skin changes. So, check po if you have rashes, redness, puckering, dimpling, or orange peel. Yung balat ng orange na texture. Check your nipples for any physical changes such as sudden inversion, yung scaly, parang may scales, redness, itching, swelling, and discharge. Paano malalaman kung may discharge? Kailangan nyo pong pisilin. Hindi po pwedeng titingin lang. Kasi minsan akala mo wala kang discharge kasi hindi naman siya hindi siya nagmamarka sa damit o sa bra. Pero kapag pinisil mo, meron palang discharge. Check also for vein patterns. Tingnan niyo po kung parang dati hindi naman kayo maugat, tapos suddenly biglang naging maugat na yung breasts niyo, tapos lumalaki yung ugat, tapos dumadami. Baka kailangan niyo pong ipacheck yan sa doktor. So this is first part, visual breast self-exam. The next part is, we're going to do the proper hand positioning. So in front of the mirror, when you're doing your visual examination, do it also with your hands on the sides, and then with your hands up. Tingnan nyo po kung may dimpling. Tingnan nyo po kung yung orientation ng breast. Halimbawa, pag angat ko po ng ganito, dapat po yung breast susunod sa pag-angat ko. Aangat din po yung breast. Kapag hindi po umangat yung breast, usually po kapag may bukol sa breast, pag inangat mo, mararamdaman mo may resistance. May hahatak pababa, samantalang inaangat mo naman siya. Next position is put your hands on your waist. Dapat po, nakaspread yung breast. Pagka i-spread natin ng ganito ang shoulders natin, dapat yung breast, magsiseparate din siya, magsispread siya outward. And check nyo po yung orientation. Baka mamaya yung nipple nyo po ay turned inward, samantalang yung movement ng breast ay palabas. Pero yung nipple nyo po, suddenly biglang pumaling papunta sa loob. Baka mayroon pong bukol na humahatak sa breast ninyo pa-kontra sa movement ng inyong arms. Next is, pull your elbows together. Dapat po, sa ganitong position, yung pong dalang breast, mag-move centrally sa gitna. Kapag po hindi, pag kumontra, baka din po merong something inside the breast that is countering the action of your hands or your arms. So these positions are important. Next is drop your arms forward on the floor. Ganito po. Bakit po importante ito? Because of the pull of gravity, dapat po yung breast will fall, parang babagsak po siya. Hindi po malalaglag ha. Pag nalaglag po susunod niyo, pakidampot, pakibalik po. Pagka po, dahil sa force ng gravity, dapat po susunod siya. Pag hindi po siya sumunod, ibig sabihin may kumukontra sa movement ng inyong katawan, baka po merong bukol sa loob na kumukontra sa galaw ng inyong katawan. So these are important visual breast self-examination positions that we need to take note of. Ayan. So breast self-exam, meron kaming tinatawag na 5 Ps. 5 Ps. The first P is position, yung sinabi ko kanina. The different positions of the arms. Isama nyo na rin po dito yung anong posisyon ang gusto niyo, ang mas komportable kayo para gawin ng breast self-exam. You can do this sitting down, nakaupo sa chair, or standing up, nakatayo. Usually po, alimbawa, in front of the shower, habang naliligo kayo, which is easier po gumawa ng breast self-exam kasi basa yung kamay ninyo, tapos may sabon, madulas, mas madali pong magsalat ng breast. Next is lying down, lalo na po kapag medyo dense yung breast, medyo malaki po yung breast, mas madali pong mag-breast self-exam nang nakahiga kasi mas nasi-spread yung breast tissue. The next is palpation. What we use to do breast self-exam, your 3 finger pads. Hindi po itong dulo ng inyong daliri, kundi itong finger pads. Bakit? Because when you put this on your breast, if you place your fingers on your breast in this position, equal pressure po ang maibibigay ninyo sa inyong breast. Pangalawa, mas malawak po ang area na mako-cover nito kaysa sa dulo ng daliri. Pangatlo, kapag meron po kayong movable na lump o bukol sa inyong breast, gagalaw po yan, hindi nyo po mahuhuli. Samantalang pag finger pads ang ginamit nyo, mas malawak, mas madali nyo pong mahuhuli yung bukol na inyong sinasalat. So, first P is position, next P is palpation. Next P is pressure. So, there are 3 kinds of pressure po. Light, ibig sabihin yung balat lang po ng breasts. Medium, ibig sabihin sa pangalawang ikot niyo po, mararamdaman niyo na po yung kalamnan ng inyong suso. Importante pong maabot natin yung level na to kasi pwede pong magkaroon ng bukol dyan sa level na yan ng inyong breast. Kasi lalo na po kung medyo malaman, so the more fatty tissues you have inside your breast, it's harder to palpate and to check for lumps. Kaya kailangan niyo pong lagyan ng konting diin. And then, in the next movement po, deep circular motion. Kasi po, ang ginagawa natin sa breast self-exam is we are looking for lumps. The goal of breast self-examination is to look for a lump. So, kailangan natin siyang gawin ng masinsin at merong iba't ibang level ng diin. Up to the level na halos maramdaman mo na yung tadyang kung kinakailangan. And then, perimeter. From the shoulder bone, remember po when doing breast self-exam, na hindi lang po breasts natin ang ating sine-check. I-check din po natin yung ilalim ng ating tenga. Hanggang dito po sa ating leeg. Dito po sa ating collarbone. In between our breasts. Under our breast. Under our bra line. On the sides. And up to the armpits. Bakit po? Kasi dito po, meron pa pong nakakalat na breast tissues. Kaya mahalaga pong ma-check natin dyan kasi pwede pong magkaroon ng bukol dyan. Okay. So, when doing breast self-exam, lying down, it's important that lie down on the bed, tapos po, get a rolled towel, maliit lang po na towel, and put it under your shoulder blades. Kung right breast po inyong sasalatin, ilagay niyo po yung inyong right hand sa likod na inyong ulo, and then use your left hand to palpate your right breast. And then do the opposite side. So, bakit po lalagyan ng rolled pillow or maliit na rolled towel or maliit na pillow dito sa likod ng inyong shoulder blades? Para po mas spread ng mabuti yung inyong breast tissue, maiangat ng Gusto para po mas madali ang pagsalat. Next. Next is pattern. Ano po ba yung pattern? Importante po na meron tayong pattern na sinusunod sa pag-check para po wala tayong ma-miss na area sa ating breast. Ang goal nga po, ulitin ko, is sa paghahanap ng bukol. So, dapat po wala tayong mamimintis na area sa breast natin. So, pwede po ninyong gawin ito ng parang pie chart, parang pizza slices. Imagine niyo po na i-slice niyo po ang pizza. Gitna po. So, from the center, 12 o'clock, back to the center, 1 o'clock, back to the center, 2 o'clock, back to the center, 3 o'clock. Ganun po hanggang makover nyo po yung lahat ng area. Pwede din pong pabilog from the nipple, which is your center, going outward, or from outside, going to your nipple. So, this is the pattern. So, ano-ano po yung 5 P's of breast self-exam? Number 1, position. Number 2, palpation. Number 3, pressure. Number 4, perimeter. And number 5, pattern. Kaya naman po ginagawa ang pagsalat. Hindi po ito ginagawa araw-araw. Kawawa naman po inyong puso. Ito po ay ginagawa monthly at a specific date lang po. Paano ito gagawin? Kung ikaw ay regularly menstruating, ibig sabihin monthly, meron kang regla, you only do breast self-exam from 7 to 10 days from the first day of menstruation. Bakit po? Kasi if you notice po, before your menstruation and during your period, bakit po magsalat sa breast? Pangalawa, lumpy ang ating breast. Marami kang masasalat dyan na bukol-bukol. So baka kabahan ka, alam mo may breast cancer ka na, yun pala. It's the cystic changes brought about by your hormones because you have your period. So, it's best to do it after your period on the 10th day. So, for example po, November 1 ang first day of menstruation mo. You count 10 days. November 1, November 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. November 10 will be your day of breast self-exam. That's the day when hindi na masyadong masakit, hindi na ganon kalampi yung breast mo, madali ka nang magsalat. Paano naman ma'am pag wala po akong regla? Menopause na po ako. Kung ikaw ay wala ng regla, you just choose one special day na madali mong matandaan. For example, ang birthday mo ay September 5. So, gawin mo yung breast self-exam ng September 5. And then, do it monthly. September 5, October 5, November 5, December 5. What are we trying to do? We are trying to establish a pattern. We are creating a habit. And then we are familiarizing with your breast. Kasi po, kapag ginagawa mo araw-araw ang breast self-exam, ang mangyayari ngayon, sobra nang desensitize yung finger mo sa breast mo na hindi mo nagbabago. But if you do it monthly, magkakaroon po ng sensitivity sa fingers mo where you can easily tell if there are changes in your breasts. So these are the things to remember when doing your breast self-exam. So how do we detect breast cancer? So there are diagnostic procedures that we need to do and we need to remember in monitoring for breast cancer. Number 1 po is mammography. World Health Organization recommends that a woman 40 years old and above should have mammogram every year. Bakit? Because mammogram can detect cancer kahit na ang bukol ay kasing liit pa lang ng dulo ng aspile. Imagine niyo po yung dulo ng aspile. Yung safety pin, ganun pa lang po kaliit, kaya na pong sabihin ng mammogram if it is malignant. So, remember to do your mammogram. If you're below 40 years old, usually the doctor would recommend breast ultrasound. So, ito po yung itsura ng abnormal mammogram ng isang breast na may suspicious na breast cancer. Makikita niyo na po na medyo marami siyang puti, areas of whiteness. Ang tawag po dito ay microcalcification. Yung mga puti po na yon are signs of malignancy or abnormality in the breast cells. So, ayun. Ang huling mensahe ko po sa inyo ay love your breasts. Don't wait for breast cancer to catch you. You are responsible for taking care of your own breasts, and breast cancer is treatable. Nagagamot po siya kapag maagang na-detect. I hope you learned something from me today, and thank you very much. This is Aileen Antolin, sharing with you my knowledge on breast cancer and breast health. Maraming salamat po.
totoong poprotekta? Sino ang tunay na susuporta? At sino ang mag-aalaga? Ngayon, marami nang walang kasiguraduhan. Ngunit may sagot dyan na mapagkakatiwalaan. Kasino ang totoong poprotekta? Kasino ang tunay na susuporta? Kasino ang mag-aalaga? Kasino ang mag-aalaga laban sa germs and viruses? Kasino ethyl alcohol? Kasino ang mag-aalaga